Well, there are now certain indications that the number of ransomware attacks in South Africa during the second quarter of this year was twice as high as at the same time last year. In other words, the number of these attacks has doubled. You'll have heard about this. This is where a group of criminals, they're able to hack into your computer or your bank's computer or whoever. They demand a ransom to let you back in. In the US, a criminal group was able to hack into an oil pipeline. It happens to hospitals. Here, last year, it happened to Transnet. They were locked out of their dock control computer system for several days. Emad Haffar is their head of the technical experts for the Middle East, Turkey and Africa for Kaspersky. Emad, good afternoon to you. Why is there suddenly a big increase in these attacks? What's driving it?
Good afternoon, Stephen. Well, I think what's driving this could be many factors, or could be attributed to many factors. One of which is the effect that ransomware had proven to be, or how useful it could be for threat actors and cyber criminals. Because, as you mentioned a bit in a minute, they use the encryption capability of the ransomware to host or hold the data hostage. And then they demand the company to pay a ransom, or even individuals to pay a ransom to restore their access to data. And obviously, in a corporate context, it might also pose another threat, which is the fact that threat actors would exfiltrate the data before they encrypt it, so that they also use it as a leverage point, threatening the company of leaking this data out if they don't comply with their demands.
What kind of groups are doing this? I mean, they're clearly very well organized, very well resourced.
Correct. In general, we see the majority of cyber criminals using this tactic. I mean, their use of ransomware, again, because it's proven to be sadly effective. However, some more advanced threat actors as well, what we call APT, or advanced persistent threat actors, they are also using that technique for the fact that they can use it. Use the encryption capability of a ransomware either to hide their tracks or to disguise their attack and hide the actual objective of their attack and make it look like a ransomware attack.
Are people making a lot of money? There must be.
In general, now usually we don't, advise users and even companies to comply and pay the ransom. There are a lot of ways that they can, or techniques rather, that they can use to protect themselves from such an attack, and even to respond to these attacks when they happen and they manage to get into the data. Paying the ransom isn't the best way to solve this problem, because it will only encourage threat actors to continue that malicious activity.
How do you defend yourself? I mean, what do you need to do?
Right. So usually preparation is key. Usually the way we discuss with our customers is to establish long and short and long-term strategies where you look into the potential attack vectors, and then you set the controls in place to be able to monitor and to defend against any attempt to exploit these points. In any strategy, in any posture that we recommend to our customers, cyber threat intelligence is always a key pillar in this strategy or plan, because it allows the organization to acquire the needed information, intelligence, and knowledge to empower the human security analysts they have with the information they need, as well as the automated security controls to be able to detect and stop all these malicious activities, even early in the attack kill chain.
Is it expensive to protect yourself properly?
I think it's not more expensive than, falling victim to that attack. These ransomware attacks, usually they are quite costly, not only from the perspective of the ransom, but also from the standpoint of the downtime the company or the business has to go through, the damage to their reputation and business. And if we took that example into a more vital sector like the critical infrastructure, financial sector, healthcare as well, we move away. It's not only the matter of financial losses, but also it turns into a life or death situation. So being prepared, spending the effort and even the money on being prepared is always a good strategy.
So, I mean, people have to do a lot of things. We've seen our port system actually grounding to a halt in one of our big ports in Durban because of this problem. We've seen, and I know in the United States, hospitals have been held to ransom. I mean, I would imagine that around the world there are people trying to break up these gangs that do this. It must be very difficult to find out who's actually responsible.
It is. I mean, look, usually we call this the attribution, and it's the ability to add a name to who was behind that attack. Usually for that we depend on digital evidences, which can be manipulated and forged at any point in time, intentionally even in many cases. But usually we try not to put a lot of emphasis on the attribution part, but rather on the understanding the techniques and the tactics that usually threat actors use to carry out these attacks. Because evidence shows us that one technique or one tool, when it's used in a certain attack, most probably it will be reused by another threat actors and cyber criminals. So usually the well-funded or bigger threat actors will come up with a new implant or a new, they discover maybe a vulnerability that they use to attack their victims. But then in a very short period of time, the same amount of information will be traded and sold to other smaller threat actors. So the point here, as long as we are trying to understand the techniques and the tactics and the implants, that basically the tools that these threat actors are using, and preparing our environments, our corporate and employees and even individuals to encounter these threats, we will be able to eliminate the vast majority of these threats. And obviously here, a very key and important part is the awareness, be it the awareness for the company employees or even for individuals. Because eventually the vast majority of cyber incidents are related to human error. So as long as we are educating our employees to avoid, the messy kind of behavior like clicking links they receive in unknown emails or opening attachments or downloading even applications and programs from unknown websites, we will definitely increase the threshold and be better, again, prepared to eliminate these attacks.
Thanks very much indeed. Really do appreciate it. Emad Haffar is the head of technical experts for the Middle East, Turkey and Africa at Kaspersky. So much going on around that. Big investigations into people behind it as well. A lot more news to come. Do stay with us.